Chapter 2. The Scent You Can't Escape. I became addicted, not to alcohol, not to dreams, to her, to the dead body, to the silence in which she lay, to that sweet, decaying scent that now haunts me every night. I kept coming back again and again, and each time I found her in the same position, as if she was waiting, as if she knew I'd return. But that night, right after the first one, I wanted to test myself. I needed to know, was it just about her? Or was I simply lost, desperate for warmth anywhere I could find it? I went back home, didn't wash, didn't change. I was covered in dirt. I was swaying, but not from exhaustion, from excitement, from the mad rush of power this ritual gave me. I entered the building and heard the neighbor across the hall slam her door. Liza, young, alive, giggly. Never my type, never had been. But that night I thought, maybe if I try with a living one, maybe then I'll understand what's wrong with me, that I'm still human. I rang the bell. She opened the door. She was wearing a short tank top and black shorts. She smirked. "Oh, it's you? How have you been?" I nodded, too sharply. "Want to come in? Haven't seen you in a while." I stepped inside. Her apartment smelled of sweet tobacco, coffee, and something heavy, warm, feminine. Liza sat on the couch, crossing her legs. "I really want," she whispered, dragging a finger along her knee. "Just be gentle, okay? Last time you were like stone." I didn't answer. Sat beside her, silent. Started with her leg. Ran my hand softly along her thigh, then lower. Stared at her intently, as if searching for something more than just a body. Her skin was hot, too alive, too real. She closed her eyes and moaned, but the sound grated on my ears. I tensed. It made me sick. Not her, but the very fact she was moving, squirming, breathing beneath me. The dead didn't do that. They were obedient. They lay still. Their breath, silence. Their bodies, cool matter, free of anxiety. Liza whispered, "Faster. I missed you." I stroked her stomach, her chest, but felt no desire. It was like it was fading. I pressed against her, tried to sink into her, absorb her warmth. But instead, I felt myself growing colder inside. I was aroused, yes, but not like this. Not to madness, not like then. I stood up. She looked at me confused. "What's wrong? What's going on?" I didn't answer, just got up, dressed and left. The door shut behind me with a dull thud. And even then I knew, the living wasn't mine. The dead called louder. I rang the bell again. She opened the door, asked if everything was okay, smiled, invited me in for tea. I stepped inside. She was talking about something. I wasn't listening. I watched her hands, the way she moved, the way she breathed. I kept thinking, now something will wake up inside me. Arousal, real desire, anything. But nothing woke, not a spark, not a flicker, just irritation. The sound of her laughter was scraped at my ears. The smell of her perfume was sharp, chemical. And most of all, she was too warm, too bright, not her. I stood and left. She called after me, but I didn't respond. Something about her repelled me completely. Or rather, I couldn't find in her what I was already irreversibly searching for in others. I went home, but the feeling of incompleteness wouldn't leave. I couldn't sleep. I dreamed of her hands turning cold, her skin taking on a gray haze. I wanted to test it, to be sure the difference was real, that the living wasn't for me. I went back to Liza. She was asleep. I slipped in quietly. Her breathing was steady. I lay beside her. My hand slid over her body. No passion, no desire, but I did it. mechanically, emotionlessly. I pressed closer. Her body was breathing fast. She wasn't asleep. I knew. She just wasn't looking at me, wasn't speaking, as if waiting for it to be over. I moved mechanically. This wasn't passion, wasn't lust. It was an experiment. When it was over, she didn't stay silent. She exhaled. "You smell like you crawled out of a grave." Then went still. She spoke in a whisper, but without fear, as if she'd known what she was getting into. She wasn't just some neighbor. Liza lived a strange, fragmented life, took men for money. She'd opened the door that night herself, lay down herself, stared at the ceiling herself, whispered, "Don't touch my face." But even she sensed it. Something was off, not physical, not human. I stood up. She didn't even look at me, just muttered, "You don't smell like yourself." And then I understood. The trace I carried couldn't be washed away. It transferred, spread, like a stain, like a curse. On my skin, and as it turned out later, on hers, lingered someone else's scent, as if something dead had seeped through me and stayed inside her. The next day, when the police arrived, I could still smell her body on my fingers, but mixed with it was something else, something dead, like I'd left a mark on her, invisible but palpable. I returned home, sat on the floor and froze. Then came the knock at the door. 3 of them, policemen, polite but insistent. 3 knocks, a pause, then 2 more. I opened the door. 3 men, one with a notepad, another with his hands in his pockets, the third just staring. "Good morning," said the first. "We're here about the incident at the cemetery. Were you there last night?" I frowned as if slow to understand. "Last night?" "Number, why do you ask? A grave was disturbed. The body's missing. We're questioning everyone nearby." I took a step back, feigning shock. "Wait, you're saying someone dug up a body? That's horrible." "Horrible?" The second one nodded calmly. "You were spotted near the cemetery gates by 2 witnesses. Where were you around midnight?" I looked away. "Walking. Sometimes I go out at night. Can't sleep. My wife, she died recently." The third tilted his head slightly closer. He didn't speak, just watched. "Our condolences," said the first. "Your wife's name?" Emily Walker. We noticed the soil around her grave was also disturbed. Do you know anything about that?" I let myself tremble, just enough for them to see nerves, not panic. Shook my head. "Number, Jesus. I go there sometimes to sit, to be quiet. But I would never." They exchanged glances. The first raised a brow. "Mind if we take a walk there with you?" "Best to check now." I paused, then nodded slowly. "Of course. I understand." We left. I walked ahead. Silence the whole way, just the crunch of leaves underfoot. One of them pulled out a flashlight, the other noted the time and route. When we reached the grave, I stopped deliberately. The dirt wasn't fully smoothed, they noticed immediately. "Did you do this?" "No," I shook my head. "Maybe animals? Or someone? I don't know. I was here yesterday morning. The earth was different." They circled, shining lights, taking photos. One whispered to the other, who then headed toward the caretaker's hut. The second pulled out a radio and called for forensics. I stood there staring at the cross, not at them, playing the grieving widower, looking at the ground, speaking softer. "I just come here to be close, to sit. It's all I have left." The lead detective stepped closer. "You don't mind if we open it?" I shook my head, timing the hesitation just right. "Do what you have to." They started digging. I stood and listened. My heart thudded dully, but not fast. I'd trained for this. No loud breaths, no blinking, no trembling. They worked in silence. Soon one of them cursed under his breath. The other removed his hat, said, "The coffin's empty." I stayed still, took a step back, shook my head like I couldn't believe it. "How? What? We'd like to know too. You're sure you weren't here last night?" "I swear, I don't know who did this." They exchanged glances. One of them whispered, "The caretaker says he saw a shadow. Someone came. No flashlight. At night. No car." I stayed silent, just stared at the open grave, as if seeing it for the first time. They left me with two other officers and went toward the main gate. I stood motionless, only nodded when someone said, "We're not making any accusations yet, but if you remember anything, let us know." I took the business card, closed the door, stood behind it for a long time, listening to their footsteps fade. My chest hummed. I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. From then on, I started seeking other graves. I read, studied, learned that after 10 days underground, a human body retains warmth. That chemical processes still occur, creating the illusion of heat. It's during this period the skin grows softer, and most importantly, the scent, that very scent, it intensifies, becomes thick, viscous, like syrup. I wandered cemeteries, searched for fresh burials, calculated using headstones, wreaths, damp soil, looked for dates falling within those 10 critical days. I knew there, beneath those mounds, was warmth. There lay what I craved. I grew stronger. I could dig fast, very fast, like a man possessed, like an animal. Where others took 30 minutes, I needed 10, sometimes less. The earth seemed apart from me. The bodies were heavy, but I lifted them as if they weighed nothing. Some 120, even 140 kilos. Still, I dragged them out, hauled them, as if something not human lived inside me. The second time I found a girl, 24 years old, fresh earth, a white handkerchief, a pink ribbon on a wreath. I memorized her name but refused to speak it. She became the second, not the last. The thrill gave me strength. I was no longer human. I was something else, a shadow living among graves. Each night pulled me further from who I'd been, closer to her, to them, to silence. I began leaving marks, to avoid confusion, to remember where I'd been, where I still needed to go. Sometimes I bent metal grave fences with my bare hands until my bones creaked, left tissues, cut ribbons, cracks in stone, trails for myself, like an animal marking territory. After each night, I walked away satiated, almost happy, a distorted, twisted happiness, but real. I trekked kilometers on foot, feeling no fatigue, no passage of time, reeking of soil, decay, something unnatural. Yet I didn't stop. Avoided public transport. The stench was too much. People recoiled, pitied me, whispered, "Poor bastard, lost his wife, lost his mind." I nodded, let them think it. I no longer belonged among them. I thought she would be enough, that after that first night I'd return to life, that it was just a lapse, a breakdown. But with every hour without her, I felt withdrawal. My body ached, my skull rang, as if a bone had been ripped out, leaving the rest to collapse. The scent that was no longer there, began haunting me. I stank. I knew it. People turned away. Cashiers rushed my purchases, avoiding eye contact. No one sat beside me on buses, yet it wasn't that smell. Not hers, not earth, not decay, just sweat, grime, life. And I wanted death, her warmth, her slickness, her silence. I dreamed of inhaling that sticky, sweet, rotten wave again, the one that coated you head to toe, filling your lungs with such bliss it felt like your heart might stop. I shook, stopped eating, sleeping, speaking, became a shadow of myself, a shadow living for one thing, to reclaim that scent, to reclaim her. The town began whispering, first quietly, then louder. People murmured about desecrated graves, a strange odor near the cemetery's edge. Newspapers tiptoed around vandalism, police increased patrols. I kept going, alone, under moonlight. Every time I pried open a coffin, I did the same thing. I smelled them, slowly, head to toe. Inhaled hair, forehead, eyelids. The curve of the neck, sunken chest, stomach, thighs, knees. My nose traced every fold, every hollow, drinking the scent like holy sacrament. I touched them, with hands that didn't tremble, fingers gliding over cold breasts, caved-in ribs between legs, leaving deadened imprints on their skin. It gave me real strength. My memory didn't fade. I remembered every night, every grave, every name, as if branded inside my skull. But I'd changed. I could detect scents from afar now, like an animal, could catch the trail of a dead dog 100 meters away. My nose distinguished living from dead as if I'd been rewired. I knew it couldn't last. This hunger, this craving, it was swallowing me whole. I sank deeper but couldn't stop. This power, this call, to be continued.